All right, everybody, we are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Uhuru. And I have the good brother, amenkrahh, all the way from Mombasa, Kenya. Hopefully we don't have any internet issues. Hopefully we get to the stream smoothly. But today's topic is, will the real Negro please stand up? I know amenkrahh has been wanting to talk about this for a while. I know we're going to go in a little bit different direction. So amenkrahh, go ahead. I'll let you go ahead and take the floor.
Okay, Dennis, thanks. And I had a few people that were trying to investigate me, see if I was a real person, or probably if I had some dirt, and they couldn't find it. I mean, if they're still looking, okay, but up to now they can't find dirt like that, because I lived my life by a set of principles, and I adhere to those principles. And one of the main principles is I refuse to be a hypocrite. And when I became Black conscious, it just became very uncomfortable for me to remain with the same name. And there are things that you can say a person is going to label themselves, but then their actions turn around and go in a different direction. And I was never one for that. I was always strict with myself. So when you look back at my life, or look at it through my Facebook profile, you can go ahead. That goes down to 2009. You won't find any deviations or anything like that about me. So I really wanted to come on and clarify what we've been mainly discussing about the trip of coming to Africa or not coming to Africa, having a homeland in Africa or having a homeland in the United States. And like with so many things with the United States is built on a foundation of lies. And along with those lies come misguided, like if you put miseducation, the American dictionary said that's not a word. And that clearly defines what has happened to us and what is being happened to us. We're being miseducated. So I think we need to look at this whole situation from a point where we define ourselves. So you're either that. And a lot of times we talk on the show and we go like for 20, 30 minutes trying to define somebody, trying to make somebody be or in this bag, or have this or be deemed this type of title. But the actuality is anybody, is when we're discussing about coming to Africa, if you're living in the United States, you are a Negro.
Repeat that again so they can hear that.
Yeah. If you're living in the United States, you are a Negro. I know Jesse Jackson came up with the term, African American, but everybody was confused. They're in America. They don't know anything about Africa. And how can you even label yourself anything African if you've never been to Africa? So it doesn't. Africa is not the same place that it was 5 years ago, and it will not be the same place 5 years, 10 years from now. So to label ourselves as African American, it created a lot of confusion, and people are pointing up names at each other. Other people are coming out talking about their Black conscience, and they do this and that. They come to Africa, and yes, Dynus, even you.
I'm not Negro. I will be a Negro.
Right. There are two types of Negro, and Malcolm X has defined this for us wonderfully in the 1960s. There is the House Negro, which is a term that defines a person who knows the fuck that they're not going to ever leave the United States. Now they can pretend, they like to pretend that they might discuss and tell somebody, you know, I got my passport, or, you know, I've been learning Swahili, but they, in the back of their mind, they know that they would never do any action towards leaving the United States. So you come back to Negro. Now you have the house Negro, and then you have the field Negro. Now the field Negro is a person that is making a plan. They want to leave. You know, it is not about how intelligent you are, how much knowledge you have. It's all about the urge that you get when you say, I'm not going to stay here. And the stronger that urge to move out of, to make a plan to remove yourself from the United States. And but nevertheless, at the end of the day, if you're in the United States, you're paying taxes to a government who has been mistreating you for 400 and continues to do it rampantly, and fighting whatever you might fight within the in-house. You are a Negro. About Africa, you know, and you have people here that are trying to make these claims that the African is ABCD, the African doesn't know the Chinese are going to take advantage of them. How the hell, when you sitting in the United States and you just going to sit there and say that, no, it's not something that you know, it's something that you wish for, because you know you're never going to leave the United States. So it's better to make that assumption that something's going to happen bad to those people that actually leave, and the numbers of brothers are increasing. And you know, we need to, you know, kind of disinfect the chat room by making sure that a person is going to understand that when you talk, when you type, you know, you're either a house Negro or you're an African in Africa. So an African that goes to the United States and lives there, he becomes a Negro. And the definition of Negro, it comes from a Latin word, necrosis, dead body. And this is basically defines us, because we're going nowhere, and we're going nowhere fast. So, you know, I hear, you know, I've been listening to your guests, you know, as usual, like everyone, very good shows. And then you know, I get so frustrated because I'm seeing them talk about, oh, you know, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this for the Black community. And I'm like, hello, the Black community is gone. There's no Harlem. There's no Watts. It's, you know, these places are, the makeup of them are changing right in front of you. It's not like you got something to do to say where this is my homeland, or this is my neighborhood, you know. No, there's nothing like a Black community. So without a Black community, what are you doing in the United States? I mean, what's your goal? Who's gonna be your neighbors? To buy a nice car, drive around. When you drive around, who you know they're gonna care? You see, this is where we have to get our minds straight, rather than get around in circles and pretending that we're something that we're not. So that's my point. And as far as me, I'm like, you know, I'm not just saying it because I have come to Africa. I'm here. Yeah, I know people, you know, I can get a few haters there because I have. And it really tickles me when some people start telling me I abandoned you know, it's ridiculous. if you're being defeated in a battle, and the enemy has got bazookas and tanks, and all you have is a gun and a few bullets, it doesn't make any sense to die. You know, your whole instinct, every being in your body is telling you turn and run. You see, and this is the option, the actual only option that we haven't done, and we haven't really in. And it also is a very scary option for someone who thinks that they're living a great life or living an okay life in the United States. You don't know actual peace of mind and freedom until you move and live in another country. And I know you get these people that are saying, if America is so bad, why is the African coming to America, you know, in droves? I think you need to realize that there's 1 billion Africans, and compare that with the number of Africans that actually come into the United States every year. And one of the statistics that the United States does not give is how many Africans go back to their home countries. They don't keep that statistic because it is a big number of people who don't go back. Africans don't come to the United States because they want to live in the United States. They come to the United States because they want money. And once they're there, the majority of them see like, no, home is better. You know, once they get a taste of that Eastern Coast weather, they're like, they're ready to reject that. But there, you know, a lot of Africans that have come today are not like the ones that were coming in the early 60s and in the 70s and 80s. You had lower class Africans coming back then, but today with the visa fees being so high, the interview fee, you get mostly middle class and upper middle class Africans who have that type of money to travel, and they live a comfortable life here. I know because I have helped so many of them to apply for visas, and they just had this urge that they had. Most of them had an urge to go to the United States from 5-6 years ago, or when they were young, and they have an opportunity to go, and their whole thing is, let me just go and see for myself. And this is the same mentality that we in the United States should also have. Let me just go and see for myself, because to keep on trying to point out errors in Africa, try to make the African look like he's so stupid that he can't write a contract with the Chinese. To keep on trying to make it look like Chinese and Africans can't sit down together and make an agreement and stick to the agreement. So many people said to trick the African. How? That's white man thing. That's the white man and trees, and then he breaks them. But today's mature Africans and the Asians have been making wonderful deals, and none of them have really failed. You don't hear anywhere backing out. So to keep on claiming that the Chinese and the Chinese is going to take the African for a ride, or they're going to come in and go, aha, we got you now, let's have all your minerals. That's just not going.
But forget that. I would say this, and it's been confirmed, like the Chinese have been somewhat playing Kenyans in regards to, like, there's a situation with the light rail that they built where they're not giving Kenyans the opportunities that they promised once it was completed. So, I mean, there are some issues with the Chinese.
No, you can take them one at a time. The propaganda out there. I have seen this railway come up from nothing. First of all, let's talk about the positive points about the railway. They said they were going to build the railway in 2 years, a record time, and they were on time with that. They said the trains were going to leave at 9 and arrive at such and such a time, and the trains leave at 9 in the morning. No, nothing like African time. They said that the Chinese wanted to have the fare to be something like 3,000 shillings, which was way out of the pocket for the average African. And the president came and told them, no, the fare is going to be 800 shillings, and that was that. So now they're in the second phase of the high-speed railway. The one from Mombasa to Nairobi is already completed. So a trip that used to take 12 hours now only takes 4 hours. And the fare is reasonable and affordable. The same price you pay for the bus is the same price you pay for the train, basically. So I don't think we can come up and keep saying these little simple things, because the second part of the, in fact, let's go through that. If you don't, just give me a minute here. You gotta be, why you're so busy, not you personally, but I'm saying, people are trying to come up with ideas of saying what's going on negative in Africa. They're missing some very important things that are happening. In fact, Africa won't be the same like it is now. We're having this conversation today, but in 5 years from now, this won't even be a topic, because past the fact that the top fastest growing nations, many of them are in Africa. These are some of the things that are happening.
Hey,
South Sudan.
Real quick, Amenkrahh, brother RJ Mahdi, who lives in Senegal, he wants to know, how can East Africa and West Africa connect?
Okay, they're going to connect because they're building a highway that goes directly across. But that's exactly what I want to talk about. You have here in South Sudan, they just have made a peace treaty, another one, but this one was a very serious one. And this peace treaty was between the two fractions that has been fighting each other over the oil rights of the new country of South Sudan since 2011. And they have now come to a well-established agreement, that a peace agreement where now they can settle down and start, wherever there's peace, there's progress. And this is what's happening in Africa today. People don't see that. In Eritrea and Ethiopia, big time enemies for a long period of time. There were a lot of wars going on. Right now, the Eritrea president is in Ethiopia today, first time in 20 years on a visit, where the two sides have now come together, and people who have relatives in Eritrea, relatives in Ethiopia, talk to them on the phone, and they're going to be doing more progress there, because Eritrea has a port that Ethiopia really needs to bring in goods and trade in the country. It's a shorter route than the one they were forced to use when the two countries went to war. So this is a big thing. And remember that Ethiopia is like the second biggest country in Africa, most populous country. And it was the fastest growing country in the world a few years ago, as far as the GDP, which is 7 and 8. So these are two things that are happening that people are not seeing while they're talking about what the Chinese might do or may not do. This is what's going on in Africa. And I'm telling you, in 5 years from now, you won't even, this is what's going to happen. In 5 years from now, the high-speed railway will be finished in Kenya, from all the way from Mombasa to the Kisumu, which is at the Ugandan border. So you have a high-speed network that goes straight through the country, and everywhere that train goes, wherever it has a station, you're going to see a lot of growth because of the train. Another thing that's happening in the DRC is the amenkrahh Dam. As you may remember, a few years ago, the World Bank just dropped.
Well, let me ask you this: how's the DRC doing? Because there's been a lot of unrest there.
Propaganda, bullshit, and the CIA. They've always been trying to destabilize the DRC so that it would not prosper. But we have to remember that Brazzaville and Kinshasa have 7 million people in that city. and they're trying to get the government together. The president, they want the president out, and they did voting, and they're going to be doing voting again to get a new country. This is what's going on. These are the things that are happening right now. Now the government, the DRC government, has contracted the Inga Dam project, which the World Bank just dropped out of because they wanted it to be 400 megawatts, and the DRC realized that they could get 1,200 megawatts. Now remember, this is Inga Grand Dam. It would be the largest dam in the world. It will change the complete face of Central and Southern Africa when it's completed and starts and comes online. All these mega projects that they wanted to do in DRC to pull up minerals and do these things, they couldn't do a lot of them because of the lack of electricity. But the Grand Inga Dam will supply that. And Spain and China have come together because made an agreement to co-build the Grand Inga Dam, and it'll be online in the next 4 or 5 years. Pipeline. South Sudan, as you know, is oil rich, and they're developing a pipeline to go into Kenya. And then you have the Lamu port in Kenya, going to be the biggest port in East Africa on that East African side. And this
this is supposed to be built by the Chinese.
What? Which one?
The port.
The Lamu port.
The new port. Yeah, in Kenya.
Yeah, the new Lamu port. Believe it or not, is
the Chinese are supposed to run it, correct?
No. The Lamu port is built strictly by the government. Now they have the equipment and things like that they're using from the Chinese. But as far as funding is this largest port, this one is a government project. You can go to my Black Man's Guide group page on Facebook and you can read about that. It's going to be online in the next couple of years, and its whole main purpose was to be prepared for when South Sudan started to pump out this oil. You see, South Sudan, they have to bring that oil to the port, and Kenya's Lamu port is the best access. So Kenya has been busy with that, and it's now like 20% finished, and they expect it to be ready in the next 5 years. These are things that are happening, that's going to be happening in the next 5 years. You got a new port in Tanzania. They're building a very modern port, deep water port there in Tanzania that's going to rival the Mombasa port. Kenya already has a major port where I'm staying here in Mombasa. And now they're going to have a rival port with Tanzania, which is also building a very, very large port. Put it in place because they see the economic growth that is not only coming, but is already happening in Africa. In East Africa, as we may know, Kenya is the only East African country that is now an oil exporter. So you have Nigeria on the west side, and you now have Kenya. Did I mention the fact that Kenya is exporting oil now? Oh, I forgot to mention that part. Yeah. Yeah, so these are things that are happening while you guys are talking about what the Chinese going to do to take them over. They're going in the African. He's not looking where he's going. This is what's happening. So yeah, you also have the expansion of the Kenyan oil refinery. Kenya has the only oil refinery in East Africa, and they're expanding that one as they produce their own oil. Now they started the pipeline deal with South Sudan before they realized that Kenya had oil. And about a month ago, the president waved off the first trucks to now take that oil pumped from the ground with Sonisia, I think Tuzmo Oil or something like that. It's a British company that they contracted to find oil, which they did, and then to now extract the oil. So that is what's also taking place. You have, of course, in Nigeria, the richest man in Africa is building an oil refinery that's going to be able to refine oil, and it's going to take up the cost of 10 times more oil, something like 10 something, but it's going to be 10 times more oil being refined in Nigeria. That's going to be online in the next 3 years. And Gote is the one who's who's building the largest oil refinery in Africa, in Nigeria, and it's about 70% finished. So these are things that are going on while we are here. While we are here discussing about these things that are just fake news. Africa is not going anywhere but up. People are not taking it seriously, and this is going to cost them. Should be making a plan to come here because this is where the action is. And white people never have a problem with white people never have a problem with migrating to places where they see benefits, or they see growth potential. And they quietly coming to Africa too. And we should not be wasting time. So that's what I'm saying, basically, that if we if we start here talking, keep on talking about look over there, the Africans been taken up for a ride. The Chinese gonna take over. The Chinese have been made this agreement in 2000, I think 2000, and then they made another one in 2008. What are they waiting for? I mean, come on, 8 years now. You got so many times you can screw the African, but they're not. And we gotta stop looking at the propaganda news to say like Africa's not ready, because this is what's happening. You're sitting in America and you're surrounded by mass media propaganda, Western propaganda, and you expect to think you can know what's really going on. And these things that they're keeping from you, news, and the things that they're highlighting in the news are designed because people want. If you want to have viewership, all you gotta do is talk shit about Africa, and people be like, look at those niggas. Look at them Africans over there. They fucking up. No, man, this thing is a serious thing. They're building skyscrapers everywhere here. The largest building in Africa is being built in Nairobi right now as we speak. They're not just come here. That's what you're gonna see. You're gonna see development, 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 and if you come here and you start complaining about things, it's just that you got to leave that Negro coat in airplane, because when you get here, everybody's busy, and the growth potential is a serious thing. We're not talking like millions of shillings nowadays. They're talking in the trillions of shillings. So we need to get past that. And if the situation is so bad that we need to have a label, people need to realize you are a Negro while you're sitting in the United States, because it is not taking you anywhere. If you're gonna have children, and you look at the school system, they're striking because of low pay. The number one teacher quit because of lack of discipline in the schools. These are the things that are going on. They're closing public schools, and all of this is because they're ready to miseducate your children. You're getting children that are graduating. Like 60% of black kids graduate don't know how to read. What is that? You need to, we just take that as normal. 15 people dead, shot dead, and 109 people shot in Chicago over the 4th of July weekend. What's that? It's just normal. No, it's not normal. That's not normal. There's a serious problem. People are frustrated and angry. And they're taking the anger out on each other. And the basis of the frustration is the fact that they can't get to where they want to go. You try to have a relationship and your woman is halfway crazy. You want to find a good man, the guy has all kind of secret life, credit problems, other kids, you see, and you become more and more frustrated, but you don't realize all of that is the product of the environment you're in. When you're not in a place where it's designed to keep you down and try to make you like you believe that it's you and not the system.
Let's see what comes. It's an echo. Okay, it's gone. So Rahh, do you think because we've seen this before where the Europeans came, built their infrastructure so it could benefit the Europeans as far as traveling and doing business without Africa. So you don't think this infrastructure that the Chinese are building is to benefit China? I mean, so you think this infrastructure that China is building is to benefit Africans and not Chinese specifically?
Look at what the Chinese are building compared with the European came here talking about building European cities in Africa. So you go to Nairobi, you can see buildings that they built that they was living in. They was living in those buildings. They built the city hall the same way for the, it looks like Europe, a European building. They didn't have, when they built those buildings, they didn't ever think that the Africans going to be living and taking over those buildings. They thought they was here to stay. And this is what the infrastructure that the white man was doing, because he was believing that he was going to stay there. But the African kicked him out. And I repeat, the African kicked the white man out of his country. Okay, something we have not done yet. In America, we have not gotten our freedom yet. Still waiting for the 40 acres and a mule, which ain't never going to come. But the Chinese are not building that type of thing. They're building infrastructures that's going to help transport goods and deal things that are dealing with trade, like building roads, building like the railway system that they're building. These are things like that. And another part of it is that the Chinese are not just doing this in Africa. They're doing this all around the world. And we have to remember that when you come talk about what the Chinese are doing in Africa, it's not even close to the type of projects that the Chinese are doing in America. So we need to cut that thing out about the Chinese. They're building the New York subway. What, you gonna not take the subway because you think the Chinese gonna hijack you on the subway? They're building the largest one of these bridges they built the bridge in China and then transferred it over into Oakland, San Francisco Bay Area. So these are major projects they're building all through the United States. And they own a lot of buildings in the United States. They don't own no buildings in Kenya the way they own property in America. Come on. So these are just propaganda. If you just take a step back and look, it's just propaganda. You need to cut that out. I live here. I travel all over the place. If I see a Chinese man once in a month, I'd be like, oh, there go a Chinese guy. You see, because they're rare to see. They're not coming here to come live here and do that. That's this new thing. They're trying to slip it in there. They're trying to come up with something like they're creating jobs and then they're bringing their people from China to come to the Africa. What? Yeah, Chinese don't have no interest in living in no Africa. They ain't coming like that. I live around here. Can't see any one African Chinese person talking about living here and staying here. Like he got his Chinese family is going to the neighborhood school. There's nothing like a Chinese person coming here like he gonna bring his family and live. He can only have one child. Every Chinese person can only have one baby. So what they got their problems and situations to deal with in China, not in Africa. So people are just being misled. And at the end of the day, what they're being misled about is leading them not to make the trip to Africa. And this is what we have to change. We have to get past that normalcy, that abnormal people. And the way to shock a person into reality, them know that they are a Negro as long as they stay in the United States. Just like Martin Luther King was trying to teach him back in the 60s, you ain't left Negro. Jesse Jackson could talk about coming to Africa, but I seen him on TV The other day when they were shooting people, they shot somebody right where he lived. So he came outside, and I'm looking at Jesse Jackson. You know, he's there. What are we gonna do about this problem? Been killing people everywhere, and Jesse Jackson is sitting there in the audience because they shooting up even around where he lives. No, people got to wake up. You know, Jesse Jackson.
So what about the Chinese building their military or expanding their military in Africa? How do you feel about that?
They're not expanding the military.
They just said it.
They're not expanding the military. They have one base, and they're not even calling it a military base in Djibouti, 6 miles from the U.S. only base in Africa. This is another thing. This is another big number that you guys are thinking like that the Americans are going to beef up their presence in Africa and then take it over. So I might as well be in America because sooner or later the Americans going to conquer the. You've been watching too many military movies on TV. Okay. Remember that they got their ass kicked in Somalia, right? In the same place where they, not the same place, but in the same general area where they built that base in the south. In the north, they got their ass kicked royally in the Black Hawk Down situation. They had to make a movie because people was always talking about how they was carrying them dead bodies of them soldiers, of those helicopter pilots off to the streets of Mogadishu. And they can't come here and do that. They cannot come here because the African, it's his land. He's just gonna go into guerrilla warfare. So and how you gonna make him work your plan after you beat him up? No, it's no way. That's what happened the first time with the white man. He learned that from colonization. You can't shoot this African and then tell this other African to go fetch your water. It's just, you know, they call him the Mau Mau back in Kenya. But there's so many. They were not they didn't call themselves the Mau Mau. They called themselves the Land and Freedom Fighters. This is a misnomer. It was the white man that called them Mau Mau, a name of contempt. But the actual Kikuyu were called Land and Freedom Fighters. And what was they fighting for? They was fighting for their land. And that's one thing the white man needed, and he couldn't keep it, and he can't keep it today. Julius Mimby in South Africa is telling them the land or nothing else. So it's a wave of, you can see it if you just look at the positive things. In South Africa, the African is saying, give us our land with no, and we're not gonna pay for it. That's what they're telling them right now in South Africa. And you know why? Because in Zimbabwe, a few years back, a decade back, what did they say? You're gonna give up the land. And the government took the land from the whites, and paid them, didn't take it and steal it. As much as they tried to rewrite the news articles all the time, they forget the fact that they were paid the market price for their land and told to move. So after they paid for the land, the Zimbabwean government, which the British government had said that they were going to pay for the land, and then when Mugabe went to Britain, he sat in the office of the government waiting for talk to Tony Blair, and Tony Blair refused to see him. Kept a sitting president waiting, and then had some clerk come out and tell him, no, Blair is busy, he don't want to see him. Just like that.
Hold on one second.
Mugabe was like,
hold on one second. We have 120 people watching, only 50 likes. Can we please get these likes up? Please hit that like button. All right, go ahead, Raw.
You need a dislike button because I know that many of them don't like my topic. You have a dislike button there, then they'd be clicking that one. But the point of the matter is that people are not knowing. You're so busy being inundated with propaganda, you're not realizing what's really going on. And so America, when Mugabe did that move, America was quick to not only demonize him and make it look like his country was faltering, but to also use him as an example that actually went against what the Europeans and the Western countries were doing. And at the end of the day, Mugabe won because the country came back into prosperity. And the moment Zimbabwe came back to prosperity, and it is prosperous. It was the second most prosperous African nation before all that happened, before they put the sanctions on them. Then the moment that it came back to prosperity, South Africa said, whoa, it worked. They did it, you see. And now you grow somebody like Julius Malema, and he's there.
South Africa.
Yeah, Malema is, and he's there now telling them to their face, you're going to give up the land. So in 5 years from now, South Africa won't be even the same that it is today. I was there in Johannesburg in 2000. I lived in Johannesburg, and I was like, no, man, this is joking. The African was just like a little puppet. And had at that time 4 years out of apartheid, the whites just up and moved out of Johannesburg. So they left all these big major buildings, and the Africans were in there taking office buildings and converting them into apartments at the time when I was there. And I was there. I met this brother, and we were doing. He was a martial artist, and I was a martial artist. So we went to this park, and we started, training in the park. He took me to this park. It was a nice park, and we started training. And then after a while, we sat down and laid down on the grass, and he laid back and said, 4 years ago, I couldn't even come into this park. And it touched me so bad because, I thought this is a normal park, but before 4 years ago, even blacks weren't able to go into the park, So, this is what we have come from. As far as the African is concerned. Today, that's just a misnomer. And the government is being put on point. The ANC is getting ready to, is being challenged deeply by a more progressive, younger generation that's not afraid to say, give us our land. And this is another thing that's going on in Africa. It won't be the same in 5 years. It won't be the same. There's too much progress that's going on now. And while we're sitting there talking about what the Chinese going to do, China's been there for a long time. The Chinese came to Africa and traded with the African and European. Many of you know the history. Before the European came in and colonized Africa, tried to colonize Africa, the Chinese came and traded with them. That's how martial arts got started, because the Chinese came and they saw the lions, the tigers, the monkeys, and when they went back to China, they didn't have a writing that could explain what they saw. And then so they started doing these plays where they started mimicking the animals' movements, the tiger movements, the monkey movements, and then slowly but surely that became kung fu. And so we have monkey style, tiger style. There's no tigers and monkeys in China. That's because they came into Africa and they saw these things and they took it back to Asia. So the only the place where the African is lacking, if I can give it if I can be balanced here, is as far as is the education and the knowledge that the African American, the Negro has in the United States, based on his understanding of what the white man has done. You see, what happened here is that the African kicked the white man out. Now, when the African leaders took over their country, they didn't want the white people to leave because white people were going to take all of the whole civilization with them. and the African would not know how to create the civilization that most of the prominent African leaders were accustomed to. And leaders at the time had been educated in Europe, so they didn't want that to happen. And so when they took over, they said, "Look, we don't want you to leave. We want you to stay. Because you have money that we need." Of course, the white man didn't want to do that, but and in some places, I think it was Rwanda, they destroyed every building that they had created. The French destroyed every building when they
poured like concrete and cement. They poured cement in the plumbing and everything. The French were ruthless.
Yeah. Now you want to try to tell me that the white man won the war? No, that guy was pissed off, man. The African refused to work. The Africans was killing him, and it was like, damn, you can't. The white man is scary, And so you shoot one that, you're gonna get 50 of them panic, and that's what happened. So that's this is the true history of what happened in Africa. What now you see now today is the benefits of the African defeating the white man taking over this country. Most of these countries just got their independence 20, 30 years ago.
Oh, yeah, and I'm wrong. There are tigers in Asia.
Okay. Okay.
My bad. I just you know,
because that's debatable where those tigers came from. I don't want to be sidetracked. Okay. So the point of the matter is, the fact of the matter is that the African kicked that white man out of his country, and today he is benefiting from that process. Now, the African, when he started to develop his schools and develop his curriculum, he decided that he was not going to teach the children the actual horrors of what the white man did by colonizing them. So they just brushed it over slightly, and even today they don't even discuss it in maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs in the history books. In the high school history books, they just talk about the African. And I'm working here at a primary school, and at 2,000 students, they don't know nothing about that at all. They could care less. And this is what the African has decided to do, so that nowadays the population of Africans have no education, no clue. And then even if you tell them that what the white man has done, they're in the forgiving mode. So there you have it. So the white man can now come to Kenya and East Africa, where once he was colonizing, killing people. He was going to the Mau Mau community and bashing the kids' heads on rocks to save bullets when they were trying to take over the land from not the Mau Mau, but the I can't think of that section of people right now. But they found the diary of a British soldier, and he was documenting about how he was killing niggas in Kenya, and by bashing the kids against rocks. So today they can just come there, and the African will happily serve them and cater to them in the hotels. And this is only because of one thing, and it is because of money. And this money is the exchange rate. It is the exchange rate. So you people that talk about the African that's running to America, he's not running to America because he want to see the snow. He's running to America. He's running to America because the exchange rate that the Western countries have put on Africans today. That beautiful half Cameroonian lady came on show and was saying she had been studied in all the major universities in the world, and the one thing she couldn't understand to this day was, how is it that 1 unit of money in my African country is worth 60, 80 units of your money, and we're the ones with the resources and minerals? And this question has not been answered. So you see, the exchange rate, which is there, makes the money much more powerful in the United States. So what you gonna do? Somebody, you got a job, you're a for example, I won't get a person's name, but you're working at a hospital, you're an intern at a hospital, administrator at a hospital, and you got people working for you, and you're a big person, and then you get a chance to get a visa to go to the United States. You go there and you start working at a rental place. I hope I don't get a person, and you start cleaning the rental cars as they come in, as people bring the rental cars back, and you say, I'm making more money doing this than I was when I was an administrator in a major hospital in Kenya. And you keep on doing that, but then after 5-6 years, where you're still doing the same type of job, where would you be, and what type of reputation would you have if you had remained as an administrator at that major institution, which eventually grew and had more wings, got a cancer wing, and that person would have been set for life. But here, they're in America, they're making more money, but there's no benefits, there's no pension, there's no respect from your family. In fact, you have to abandon your family and your friends to come and work, and then you sit in this build, and you build what? A house. Then what? Then you come back, and you've been set back as an African. You went there when you was young, and then when you come back, you're older. You don't have, you're just starting all over fresh again. So this is what Africans are beginning to realize now, especially younger Africans that can get on TV and see. I mean, get on social media and Google, and then see that America is not what you think it is. I mean, up to 5 years ago, I used to have all the time. Africans used to be like, "What? I mean, you mean they have homeless people in the United States?" I'm like, come on. I'm telling them, the bridges. There's a bridge in the U.S. that crumbled and killed somebody. You mean to tell me that the bridges are not, the infrastructure is not strong in the United States? They have potholes. They have potholes. Yes, they have potholes in the United States, and they have people sleeping under the streets. Because I'm here, and I have the ability to project on the screen any video, and I can get like 60, 70 students walk in here, and I project a video of Los Angeles, and I'm saying they're watching this video, and I'm showing, you see this where they're passing by, you see these tents and these people in these in the plastics. These are people that don't have homes, and they go, and you can just hear the kids go, "What? Oh!" Because you don't even see that in Kenya. Homeless people on the streets, So somebody in here is going to tell me, I was in Mombasa and I saw these many people laying sleeping on the street. These are workers that get up at 2 and 3 and 5 in the morning for particular early morning jobs, and they do like to sleep outside on the ground when they first come in to get employment. That is a temporary employment. They're probably sleeping close to where that temporary employment is, and they have to be up at 4, 5 in the morning, and so they sleep out. Some of you people on the East Coast might not realize it because you're used to the cold weather. But here in Mombasa and in the coast in Tanzania, people sleep out on the streets. It's like a normal thing because the weather is so wonderful, and sometimes it gets very hot. People prefer to sleep outside. So it's not the same thing as you don't have no home and and you're exposed to the elements. You can go to where Skid Row, and you can interview people, and you can say, "How long have you been homeless?" And they're gonna tell you 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, years. Yeah, you don't find that in Africa today. I see it. I see street children, and I have not seen them lately. But years ago, in Nairobi, there was a section of town where you walk, you can see so many street children. And I do business. I was doing business daily, so I would see them all the time. And then I would look at like, what is this now? And so I decided to investigate into it. So I started watching them and looking at them, and they knew me. Some of them knew me as Mzungu, because they can spot a foreigner from a mile away. And so I'm like, they had this one little baby boy, like he was like 4, barely walking. And I had come to realize and had been told and figured it out that wherever you see these little boys begging, there is an adult parent somewhere in the vicinity watching them at all times. So when I started walking and seeing them, I started looking around. And when you look around, sure enough, there's that mama sitting there. They're running to her, giving her money, going back. She's putting them to work there. And this is another business, a business of begging in the streets. It's not that they had to do that. Somebody could stop them, and then they would go maybe sell chapatis or something like that, or some other job. But they were doing it as a business by having their children go out and beg. And many of these people are coming from the rural lands, and they don't have that type of mentality of thinking like what it is socially not acceptable.
All right, cool. Let's see what question we got. Are you watching the playback, Rahh? Okay, here we go. Let's see what else we got in the chat.
Didn't make the video mess up.
Okay, here we go. Let's see what we got here in the chat room. Someone wants you to go in deeper as far as the free trade agreement in Africa and how that benefits Africans. Can you?
Look in you can go on Google and you can do the trade agreement with China and Africa. There are several of them, and they're not something that was.
We're just speaking on the agreement amongst African countries, the free trade agreement.
Oh, the African Free Trade Agreement, that thing is on. They've been doing this for a long time. So I've been in Kenya and I've seen several of them. They had one for Kamesa, something like that, where it was South Africa. They did like this. But let me tell you the truth. Let me tell you the real deal that you don't see. Now you have these countries, Kenya, let's say bordered, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, DRC, South. They're all there. So now when you go up to the border, let's say you're driving to the border. Okay, you're gonna be stopped. You're gonna get your passport out, or you're gonna do your little trade. But if you get out the vehicle, when you see the checkpoint down the road, you get out the vehicle and you walk like a mile to the west or the right, and then walk across. There's no border patrol. There's nothing like that. You're gonna find communities that normally walk across back and forth and trade, without even having an instant about ID or passport or trading papers. So the governments are talking one thing, and the people on the ground are doing other trades, doing another thing, and they're doing their local trading the way they have been doing even before the white man came. So this is what's really going on. So the government, of course, is trying to organize and try to control that type of trade between, and then you have a really big bulk trade. The government is trying to regulate that, but basically, countries have been trading amongst each other all the time, especially in Uganda and Kenya. Like people go walk over to Uganda, pick up shoes, and then bring them back to Kenya, and then sell them. Where they get the shoes from, I have no idea. But this is what's been, this is what I see, and this is what's been going on. So this thing has been happening, and what you have is, this is what I was saying about Ghana. People are talking about going to Ghana. Don't go to Ghana unless you got money, because there's very little trade on both sides of Ghana. Is the French countries, French. I'm calling them French countries, but you know what I mean.
French speaking.
They're given by the French on both sides of Ghana, and I believe that the United States is just trying to have something to say, like we got our otherwise it'd be French too, but. There's no trade between these two. It's almost zero, because of the language barrier and because of because the countries are being controlled by two different types of governments, and they're always competing against each other. But in Kenya is part of the East African community. They were, even in 2016, they were trying to have a common currency, and they're still trying to do that. And they have a government that's an East African government that's set up in Kenya. I mean, set up in East Africa. They can tell Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, Eritrea, not Eritrea, but Rwanda, and another country. I can't think of it. But South Sudan is also wants to be a part of this. So the trade is massive, because these countries they reduce the restrictions. And you can go across border with things and sell, come back across on this side and sell. And these are things that are happening while people are sitting here talking about the Chinese are trying to take over. The amount of trade that the Chinese are doing in Kenya is about 70% of the basic trade that they can count. But the amount of trade that is going on between the common local people has always been enormous. And you get towns, and they have great elders that are there that are controlling and dealing with this basic trade between communities, even though they cross over into different countries. So, like I said before, if you're waiting for the Chinese to take over Africa, you're going to be waiting a long time. It's just not going to happen. The Chinese are smart. They would not be as stupid as to try to come and do the same thing that the white man did. The white man was stupid for trying it, got his butt kicked out of Africa, and the Chinese are not going to be that stupid. The Africans are great warriors, and we have a lot of history because America is based on a foundation of lies. It's not only things that they lie about, but the things that they just ignore and cover up. I got tired of doing the research and coming up with so many things that just made me angry, kept making me more angry, because I'm learning new things of what they did and what they covered up. this thing about the moon landing, I'm like, this thing, I started researching into the moon landing thing, and I'm like, it's you can't be 100% sure if we didn't go to the moon. And can you imagine if we didn't go? And there's all this evidence, and the only thing that really doesn't make it completely 100% is the fact that, the only thing that really makes you get like it could happen is because of the history of the United States and how they can lie. Because you see, all those flight missions came to one president, Richard Nixon, and I did the research, and I've already done the research on HIV/AIDS. People, that's not even a topic. But you got Negroes who have been inundated with Western mass media propaganda, and they cannot do the research and realize that the HIV virus has never been found to be in the human body. Come on. And Dr. Robert Gallo said, which they took his interview off now, but when he came up in 1984 and said that HIV causes AIDS, he was asked, can it be transmitted through anal sex? I mean, not through anal sex, but through regular sex. No, you can only see the virus pass through anal sex. But when it came over to Africa, it just flipped over and went from the anal to the now regular sex. And then you have this big campaign about AIDS in Africa. These are the foundational lies that America is built on. We won't even go into 9/11. I don't even understand. If I was there, I'd probably be in jail or dead. Because no way in the hell you can make me believe something like that plane hit the Pentagon. Just jokes. And they're saying it's not the fact that if a plane hit the Pentagon or not. It's the fact that you can do it and cover up something like that. Say that there was a plane that blew up in the Pentagon. It's jokes. So the media is constantly trying to confuse you. And at the end of the day, you just have to be able to look at what is it that they want me to believe, and then you need to believe the opposite, because that is the foundation of what America has done. We can't. It's not even a matter of does America care about the African American? No, it doesn't. One thing about white, and I'll let you talk after this, but the one thing about the racist whites, they are fighting desperately to keep the black man from being equal with him. When you talk about racism is only economics, but at the end of the day, it's white people don't want you to be equal with them. And as long as they keep that going, you're going to be struggling. Maybe you might have a good job and you might have a nice apartment or you might have a nice house, but you look around you and you're like a minority in that fact. Yeah. So we seriously need to start looking at Africa in a positive light. Start looking at the things that are growing and happening in Africa. Compare Africa from 10 years ago to where it is today, and compare it now 10 years from now. Oh, it's going to be off the chain. It's going to be off the hook.
Well, so what we'll do, let's see. Well, what we'll do, we'll go ahead and close out. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Make sure you get those likes up. I'm Rahh. Go ahead and close out, and also share with everybody how we can get in contact with you. Share your contact information as well.
Yeah, when we started doing these little talks, I didn't have that much experience as far as this medium is concerned, and between the shows I would say, how could I do better? Of course, I'm looking at the likes and the things like this, but then I was seeing, like, when we talk about something like this, you get less people that are interested. And like I said at the beginning of this show, I have to be true to myself. And even though I know that maybe it's not a popular subject, it needs to be talked to. People need to start making a conversation about this, and people need to start realizing that they're not American. They're not even an African American. They're something that has been created in the United States, and it has nothing really to do with Africa. If you're living in America. So you can get on social media, you can watch a few movies, hell, you can go out and buy some dashikis, but it just doesn't make the connection until you actually make the action plan, write it down with a pen, write down your action plan, and then make that trip. Everybody that I have met that have come here, have all overstayed their visa, and they all went away with a positive image of Kenya. Myself, I've traveled to 6 countries, African countries, and lived in 2 countries, African countries. And I was not just going as a tourist. I was going with an actual, like what Dynas is doing. I was looking around and saying, how can we benefit? What's the status? What's the status of the African? And I'm telling you that the African is a smart person. He's not a dummy. He may not be what you think is. He might not do the right thing as you see it today. But even me, I live here, and I used to criticize them, and then 2, 3, 4 years later, I come to realize that he was right. And for example, I was, and I'm going to cut off to this one. I didn't want my kids to go to boarding school, and me and the kids' mom was like, we were going back and forth. No, because I'm from the United States. I don't on day school. I want to see my kids, and of course, I lost the argument, and they went to boarding school, and after some time, I came to realize this is the reason most 70, if you don't know, 70, 80% of kids in Kenya, they go to boarding school. 70, 80%. So this is why you don't have teen pregnancy, because all the girls are in girl schools. This is why you don't have gangs, because all the boys are at that age, they're in boarding school. You don't have a drug problem like you have in the United States, because most of the boys are in boarding school. You don't have no kids being shot and this and getting into trouble because they're in boarding school. I didn't have to worry about my daughter, who was very beautiful, because she was in boarding school. Like guys coming around, she used to come and I used to take her to the beach, and she'd go out in the water, and all these boys would come swooping around her, and I'm like, get out the water, it's too many sharks, because these boys, boys are boys, and when a girl is in boarding school, that chance of getting pregnant is greatly reduced to almost to zero. So African is somebody that is stupid. And I've been doing this for many years now, and you can go to our Facebook group site, Black Man's Guide to Move into Africa. It's been going on since 2009, I think. And go to scroll down through the articles, positive articles about Africa, and also real articles about what's going on in the United States and in Western media.
All right, you guys. Well, thank you for joining us. Make sure you go to Search for Uhuru on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Also go to searchforuhuru.com, Amazon.com, search your name, Dynas Amir. Also go to AfricaPersonified.Africa. Make sure you guys like, subscribe. If you're new to the page, please share it. So again, everyone, thank you so much. Grandmaster, it was a pleasure. And guess what, Grandmaster? We didn't have any issues really with the internet.
Yeah, man, computer guy. So you see, I dropped the firewall, turned off the antivirus program. I think that's really what's doing it. So yeah, if you know me, when I get something on my mind, I'll keep on working on it until I get it right.
All right, so it was perfect today. So again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Till next time, peace.
Peace.